all good today to attend the Africa Alliance webinar today. On behalf of the Africa Alliance board, I am very happy to give this welcome remarks and introduction to this very important talk today. Africa Alliance is one of the great alliance inside EUTech that is committed to support the tech development in Africa and to make everyone in Europe and everyone in the world to come together and to support the tech development in Africa in all of the aspects. In today's meeting with our great expert from the tech sector, talking about mobility in Africa is a very, very important talk for us today, because Africa is one of the greatest continents in the world, with about 2 billion people of population, and we have about 60% of our population who are young people. And discussing this issue is something very important for us to find the right ways how we can overcome those challenges in the continent, bringing companies from Europe, from Africa to discuss and to see the opportunities we can develop together. And again, I hope that this talk will be a very important time to bring solutions to Africa and also to the world, because Africa is the world, and talking this matter today is very important for us. And I am very happy to open this discussion and to say hello to all of you, and hope that we can have a very fruitful discussion with all members and speakers. And thank you very much, and have a good session. Thank you.
Thank you for the remarks, Kasim. And now over to me now. Good morning, everyone. My name is Svetlana Nyamel. I am the coordinator Africa Alliance at the EUTech Chamber. And for my role, I do support tech expansion and business networking between EU and Africa. I'd like to welcome you all today to this webinar that we have on easing mobility with tech. So right now I'm going to head over to do the EU introduction. We are at the EUTech Chamber, and just to share my screen. So the EUTech Chamber is a registered NGO with the mission and vision technology obliges. Started in 2015, it's a membership-based organization at over 2,000 members, plus and counting, to enable businesses use technology for the benefit of. So how it does this, the EUTech Chamber is structured into different alliances. There are regional alliances, tech alliances, as well as impact alliances. For the emerging markets, we have China, Africa, which is organizing this webinar today, Latin America, and one for German-speaking Europe. For the tech alliances, there are IoT, mobility, energy, smart cities through food farming and fisheries, and also the impact alliances, finance, SDGs, climate action, and women in tech. The EUTech Chamber is #1 platform for technology exchange and business networking in the EU, at over 200 plus webinars per year, 20 hybrid expos, and plus virtual exhibitions in around major European cities and events, as well as 50,000 registrants to our events. 90% of the audience are company owners and decision makers. The EUTech Chamber also is the #1 tech platform for networking. We will give you exclusive market insights in the follow-up to the webinar, the networking meetings, and also in the public chat. I've left a link to the tech.forum. Please register so as to join the next networking meeting for the Africa Alliance coming up next week, same time. So also in these meetings are dedicated to exchange ideas on cooperations and projects, and to give unique access to EU tenders and worldwide fundings. Currently, for the Africa Alliance, we are forming team to apply for an EU energy tender. So also please reach out to me if you want to be part of the team. So The EUTech has a wide ecosystem and events and webinars. We do have insights, programs, and tech.forums, white papers, position papers, newsletters. Each alliance has their own white papers and position papers. We have one for the Africa Alliance. I'll be leaving the link shortly in the public chat on 10 key recommendations on how to achieve business success in Africa. Visions for Europe magazine, please do submit your article, how you're transforming society through science, innovation, and technology to reach 10,000 decision makers directly. Our tech team will provide you social media support, digital transformation, as well as climate action support. But I want to introduce the awards here as well, and we have one coming up at the end of this year on SDG awards. Last year, we had 17 winners for each SDG category, and each winner received a marketing and promotional package of 10,000 euros. The SDG awards will be again happening this year on November 24th. So please look out for when the awards will be open. I have left a link of the Africa Alliance LinkedIn group in the public chat. Please do join us to keep updated when the application will be open to the wider public. So our tech team will provide you a virtual booth. You can move them to the virtual expos. You can also create and manage your own events. And to reach out or to contact us, to engage and benefit, please reach out to my colleagues, Marcus and Federico. Yes, so just to introduce the the EUTech Chamber. And now to our meeting here today, I would like to introduce, and also for some house rules, there's a public chat function on the upper left of your screen. Please feel free to pose your questions to the panel here today, as well as interact with the audience. If you cannot see my screen, there is a restore screen icon on the bottom right of your screen next to the hand signal. Please use it to restore or to minimize presentation. So with us today, we have Eric Momemoro from Tanzania, who is the founder and director, Imo Boda Boda. Eric went to the University of Dar es Salaam and graduated with a BA in Political Science and Sociology. He's a diaspora and has always lived between two continents, studied in Germany, and is very much into concerned with family matters. With the startup company Technoroads AI Tanzania, Eric is on a mission to be part of people who want to create the world to be a better place for all. His vision is to give people in Tanzania the ability to build and bring their communities closer together through electric mobility, agriculture, and environment. And also Eric will be leaving the link to the Technoroad AI in the public chat. Eric believes in innovation and green energy, and that all can be done through unity and cooperation between people and different nations. We also have Jonathan Green, who is the co-founder and chief financial officer, Basigo, Kenya. Jonathan has over 15 years experience in operation of companies to deliver new technology to customers in Africa. Prior to Basigo, Jonathan held the role of strategy and operations director at Phoenix International, managing corporate finance, strategy, and global operations, delivering over 500,000 PayGo solar home systems to customers across 6 countries in Africa. We also have Emil Fulcheri, the CTO of Stima Boda. Emil is a founder and CTO of Stima Boda, startup based in Kenya, developing battery swapping systems to enable motor taxi riders to switch to electric motorcycles. Emil is a renewable energy engineer, graduated from Mines Paris Tech and Tsinghua University. He previously worked for large European energy companies such as CEA, EDF, and Ørsted, combining his expertise on energy system modeling and data science. So we're going to open the panel discussion here today. We will start with Eric. Eric, I'm going to mute myself to minimize backfeed noise, but when you see your presentation, will you please take the floor and start, okay?
So, hello everyone. Hello, thank you very much, Svetlana, for giving me this chance today to present Emo Boda Boda and Techno Roads I Tanzania Company Limited. So, as you see, our company is based in Tanzania, like what Svetlana explained to us. And we are in Dar es Salaam. So the aim of Techno Roads I is to connect from different partners and stakeholders in the Tanzanian community in the different projects. Especially what we want is to support the development of local technology by bringing this technical innovation here in Tanzania. So through that, we started with our first project. Please, next slide. Yeah, through that, we started with our first project in electric mobility, and it is a solution for mobility challenges in Tanzania. As you see in many developing countries, there's a lot of problems, but mobility is one of the big challenges. So if you go, you ask people, especially young people who are doing this business, they tell you, yeah, we are using fuel motorcycles, but there is a lot of problem, especially maybe problem with the price of fuel is very high. The maintenance costs are very high. Credits, we cannot get money to own our own motorcycles. So the solution for that was to come with electric motorcycles business for sustainable environmental conservation in order to support those young people who are in the Tanzanian society. Please, the next slide. So the project location is in Kigamboni. Kigamboni is Dar es Salaam. And we started last year in August 2021. Until now, our project, we have 20 electric motorcycles. Our team comprised of me as the founder and director. We have advisory board, sales and marketing officer, operation and business development. We have people also for logistic and repair who are responsible for daily problems, which Boda riders they will bring to us, and then they do repairs. So also we have somebody who is electric vehicle engineer. So he's responsible also to make for assembling for the product which we imported them to Tanzania to construct them together, and then to continue to provide to our clients. Next slide, please. So our business, Emo Boda Boda, as I mentioned before, so it is an electric motorcycle. So we have two types of business model. What we do is we sell our units through rent-own model. I think this is one of the most famous business model in East African countries, like when you see Uganda and Kenya. So we do the same thing that with clients are coming to our office, Boda riders, so we go with a specific contract, and the customer, they receive the Emo Boda, and then they pay in terms of weekly basically payment. And also we have the provision of service as a second business model, whereby the rider rent per week. So the rider, they don't own a motorcycle, but instead what they bring is a weekly revenue to us, because most of them, there are some, not most of them, but there are some of them which they say that, no, I don't want to own a motorcycle, but I want to use it in a weekly basis. But not only that, we have a service pay as you go model. This is through swapping station at our office. So we have some batteries, which we are using them for the charging service, as long as the motor riders, which when they are on the way, they pass through our office, and then they can change their batteries and continue with their daily business. Please, next slide. The challenges, what we are facing since we started our business last year in August is infrastructure, swapping station and technicians. Because this is a new technology, so it means that these challenges, they're always there, and what we are looking for solution to them. But not only that, also there is a lack of capital to invest. We see that we are getting a lot of customers, even customers from outside of Tanzania, neighboring countries. So we need to inject our investments so as we can buy more motorcycles, Emo Boda Boda, in order to satisfy the need of our clients. Also, lack of policies. You know, in Tanzania now, electric vehicle, it's a new technology, like what we are doing with our company to introduce new technology. So the policies are not there. So the policies, they should be worked so as we can work in a good manner. Also, lack of enough electric vehicle ecosystem. This, I mean that something like meetings, weekly meetings to know other companies. Also, we welcome other startups which they can come to this Tanzanian ecosystem in electric vehicles so as we can share together, we can discuss together and find maybe solution for those challenges. Next slide, please. So our plans as we Emo Boda Boda Tanzania is to continue scaling, looking for the local partners, for instance, universities or local lithium batteries companies, which we are discussing with them. And also our plan B is to look for investors. It means that we are looking for technological investors, not only financial investors, but technological investors outside of Tanzania. If there also are some investors like where I'm living, and because I'm living in two countries, like what Ms. Svetlana before explained to us, that also I'm in Germany looking for the companies which they have interest to invest in technology or to work together as partners. Yeah, and this is what we are doing as Emo Boda Boda, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Eric. I'm going to move now to Jonathan. Jonathan, let me give you the presentation rights to share your screen from your end. And yeah, so I think you have the rights. Go ahead and share your screen, please.
All right, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you okay.
Great.
And we can see your screen now. It's loading.
Great. I've just managed to share my screen without sharing my presenter notes. So while I introduce myself, I will try and fix that. Hey everyone, my name is Jonathan. I am the CFO and co-founder of Basigo.
Sorry, Jonathan. Your screen share has just abruptly ended. Maybe you can give it another go.
Yes, I was just trying to reload my presenter notes. Can you all guys see it now? Hello.
Hello, we cannot see it yet.
Tab. Can you see me now?
No, not yet.
All right, sorry, technical. Let me just stop sharing at Svetlana, and then I will reshare.
Okay, sure.
And if this fails, then perhaps you can just drive the slides, and I can speak to them. We're definitely getting low on time. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, now it's loading.
All right, great. Great. Well, my name is Jonathan. I am the CFO and co-founder of Basigo. We're an e-mobility company based here in Africa, specifically Nairobi, Kenya. And we are mostly focused on, I guess, the sector of e-mobility of public transport and commercial vehicles. The reason why we are really excited about buses is that they account for about 40% of all passenger trips across the continent, and they are huge polluters in terms of CO2 emissions. Each bus pollutes about 50 metric tons of CO2 annually, and a lot of that toxic air pollution that comes out of the exhausts that many of you have been to Kampala, Nairobi, Dar es Salaam have probably seen and experienced. And why we think electric is so great for this sector is that, first of all, our grids in East Africa are incredibly clean. Nairobi, for example, or Kenya, over 95% of the electric generated last year was from renewable sources. There is an abundance of off-peak energy, which is very, very useful for charging commercial EVs at night. And as a result, actually, the electric tariffs at commercial scales are very, very affordable for off-peak charging. And as a result, actually, the cost of operating an electric bus on a mile-for-mile basis compared to its diesel counterpart, compared to spending about $2,200 per month on fuel, given the current fuel price here in Nairobi, the equivalent cost to charge your electric bus will be about $450, so about 80% of the saving. And as a result, in addition to micromobility, electric buses and I think public transport buses, so high mileage vehicles that operate within cities, are one of the kind of few asset vehicle classes where electric actually does have a lower total cost of ownership compared to its fossil fuel incumbent. So why aren't there electric buses all over the roads already? I think there are a couple of challenges that have to be solved in order to get adoption here. And this is what Basigo is trying to solve. Ideally, we would not have to solve all of these, but for now, we realize that we are building a sector. But first off, we've got the design. So the vast majority of electric buses, about 90%, are sold in China, and the remainder are sold really in Europe, South America, and North America. And they all drive on the wrong side of the road. So getting a right-hand drive bus with a high ground clearance, because we have a few road architecture challenges here, including speed bumps and potholes, is key. So we've been working with BYD, one of the leading providers of electric buses in the world, to design and supply a bus for the African market. Another thing is that basically cost is a huge challenge. And one way to bring down cost is through local assembly. And that's kind of really key to kind of benefit from some of these tax incentives of encouraging local assembly for vehicles versus importing them new. And for an electric vehicle to be, even comparable in cost with a diesel, local assembly is absolutely key. And the final thing is obviously, the local capacity for charging and service. And Basigo is actually building out its own charging network in addition to building its own service capacity. But I think the main thing that we are doing, and this is primarily to address the cost, is that we're developing an innovative financing solution that we're calling Pay As You Drive. Even so, when you solve all these barriers, the cost of an electric bus is about 2x what a diesel bus would cost. Our Pay As You Drive financing model allows the bus investor or bus owner to purchase the electric bus for the same cost as they would the diesel comparable, and then they finance the difference in the cost in actually a way that they'll be paying for fuel. So we kind of turn that additional capital expenditure and financing into an operational cost, and they simply pay us for fuel on a per kilometer basis. We provide all the charging for that. We provide all the servicing. We lease the remainder of the bus, and over time, they earn equity into the bus. I guess this is, my thoughts on the kind of the PSV market in Kenya and in Africa is, first off, it's probably impossible to fit all of my views on this very, very complex and exciting sector onto one slide. But I can have a couple of highlights about, I think, Nairobi specifically, is that, there are about $1 billion spent annually on bus fares, $300 million spent purchasing fuel and buses. And I think what makes it really exciting for OEMs and investment here is that it's a private market. So all the buses that you see operating on the road are owned by, limited liability companies, SACCOs, and private investors versus municipalities, which means that I think it's very, very interesting in terms of volumes of buses purchased every year and the sort of amounts of volumes that we could do compared to cities throughout the world. I guess the challenges with that private market is actually very unregulated. So a lot of the stakeholders and the movements of monies and information between all of these stakeholders is vastly untracked. I think that the two things that are tracked really are the amount of revenues that the fuel stations report to the GOK, and that the bus owners pay to the banks, and then primarily everything else is untracked. So, passenger payments to the PSVs, the driver offloads to the PSV owners, and this creates, all sorts of challenges with respect to transparency. I think primarily is that the GOK does not have good data on their public transport systems for purposes of urban planning. No great data on tax collection, for example, and so this actually remains a mostly untaxed sector. Similarly, for the bus owners themselves, they don't really have a great idea on bus revenues. So skimming is very common, and owning a diesel bus as a PSV it's an interesting investment, but it obviously has a lot of risks for the bus owners. And I think to make those things harder, they don't have actually good data on their expenses, their revenues, which makes business planning, applying for loans, and all sorts of problem. And I think one of the biggest challenges with respect to more tech or more electric mobility in East Africa is that due to a lot of this, I think untransparency and opaqueness, is that the government has no idea about how much fuel, for example, the sector is using. And for everyone who doesn't know, the government of Kenya currently subsidizes diesel by about 25 shillings per litre. And many countries are doing this, obviously. And there's obviously that comes at an environmental cost. And if they were able to kind of quantify that, they might be able to kind of figure out, well, what would it look like, for example, for more, I guess, business-friendly policies towards electric vehicles that could be offset by this savings and this subsidy. So maybe like getting towards some of the kind of challenges a bit more specifically now, and potential solutions where EU tech could potentially help, as well as collaboration, is I think just EVs are not designed for Africa currently, but similarly, the road systems here are not actually that mindful in terms of suitability for EVs. And so supporting with urban planning solutions such that...
I cannot hear you guys.
So you can't hear me? Hello?
I can hear you, Jonathan. Eric,
Okay.
Can you hear Jonathan, Eric? Because I can hear him. Okay, please go ahead, Jonathan.
Right, I'll keep going. So I think just being mindful of actually when doing urban planning is that turning circles, speed bumps, these are all kind of supported, and that information is provided to governments and even OEM planning vehicles. I think the business environment also needs some support here as well. So this is a brand new sector. As such, there is no secondary market for electric vehicles, be it buses or motorcycles. And there's also no transparency around battery health. If you've got a 5-year-old electric bus, we need to make sure that the new owner of that bus is not buying a dud. And so ways and think we can support here is that assessments on secondary markets and applications for older EVs would be really, really useful. But I think one of the most kind of impactful ways of supporting here would actually be kind of a sharing of data on battery degradation across EV platforms, such that buyers of secondhand electric vehicles can be kind of safeguarded against buying older batteries. And finally is that lending against these assets, because they are new technologies, it's risky for local banks, and as such, guarantee facilities to shield them against any losses as a result of technology challenges could be actually a very useful way for participation. Similarly, with challenges of local banks, insurance policies here are challenging. So many of the insurance policies, and this is speaking from my own experience of trying to insure an electric bus, are very outdated. Policies, for example, carve out the battery repair in the event of an accident. For an ICE vehicle where the battery is small and just powers the headlights, like that's fine. But for EVs, that obviously is large challenging. But this clearly has been solved in other markets. And so encouraging cross-pollination of learnings about EV insurance would be really, really helpful. I think on the kind of other on the business side is that power utilities are not doing enough. So while KPLC has a huge oversupply, a lot of their tariffing does not make a great deal of sense to incentivize off-peak charging. So for example, we actually pay a fuel levy here in Kenya in our per kilowatt fee, despite 95% of our electric being renewable from geothermal and hydro. A small amount of diesel is used, or coal or whatever, to top up. But clearly, when there is a huge peak at night, that's not being used. But that that fuel levy, for example, is not being taken off. And so I think kind of again, support with KPLC to kind of develop smart tariffs would be incredibly impactful for charging electric vehicles generally. This is a very early stage, so this is probably kind of more, vanilla comments on challenges, but access to financing. We are all, to bridge the difference in costs between electric and the fossil fuel incumbents, whether we're doing battery swapping or whether we're doing, financing of the difference in cost, these are all kind of fairly asset intense businesses. And we do require large amounts of debt. It's very early stage, and so I think concessional financing and guarantees to support more commercial lenders to take the risk to lend at early stages, so we can get as many electric vehicles on the road as possible, would be incredibly catalytic too. And I think finally, just supporting the government, like I mentioned earlier, to make more smart tax decisions based on EVs, especially as it kind of relates to their NDCs. So for example, if we understood the cost benefit analysis of the fuel subsidy vis-a-vis a subsidy on importation of electric vehicle batteries, for example, we could find out actually that's a win-win for the government, because their power utility is making more revenue, they're spending less foreign reserves on buying oil, and from a taxation perspective, they're potentially better off. So there's a few ideas there to kind of get policy more supportive to electric vehicles too. I think I've had more than my 4 minutes, so I will take a pause there and just say thank you all for bearing with me.
Not a problem at all, Jonathan. And so I think IT, we have a problem. Someone cannot hear the presentation. Could you please support Eric in that as well? But also in the public chat, we have the board chair of the Mobility Alliance who would like to continue the common exchange between the Mobility and Africa Alliance, and has left the contact details in the public chat as well. Okay, moving forward to our final presentation here today. Emil, let me give you the presentation rights. Okay, there you go. The stage is yours.
Okay, thank you, Svetlana. Let me try to share my screen. So I have the button on my screen, but I don't manage to share it. They still tell me that I need authorization.
Could you click on the bottom center screen, the share screen, and then you can select entire screen. You can select tab or window, and then when the share button lights blue, please go ahead and share your screen. We can see your screen now. Emil? Are you still here with us? Hello? It seems to be. Hello. Hello, Emil. I can also share the screen from my side if you're having some difficulties. Can you hear us? I cannot hear you. Can anyone hear Emil in the Can you hear him, Jonathan? Because I cannot get any feedback from him.
I can only hear you, Svetlana.
Okay. I don't know. All right. Maybe when you're waiting. Okay. The screen is loading now. Emily, if you can hear me, I can also share the screen from my side. Maybe you can stop the sharing your screen and then I can share mine, okay? Okay, we have lost Emil. Just as we're waiting for him to get back into the room. And also tech team, if you can help me, if you can support with getting Emil back into the room. And maybe we can ask maybe a few questions already. Please, the public, there's a public chat function on the upper left of your screen. Feel free to leave some questions to the panel. We'll be getting into the panel discussion in a short while. And but maybe was you waiting for Emil to come back, Jonathan, if you can ask from your presentation. Basigo at its core is an electric vehicle financing company. How is it planning to use tech to improve its operations?
Cool. Yeah, it's a great company. Sorry, great question. We are also a great company. As you mentioned, I think the core of our innovation here is like it's linking the asset financing of the electric battery within the bus, combined with it being able to pay for that via the infrastructure that we're supplying for charging and service. And essentially we are an asset financing platform with the battery being the main asset. And so I think the way that we're using tech here is really managing our battery assets, so understanding the health of the battery, the state of discharge, how much charge the battery can still hold, and the usable life left, and really understanding our cost of goods. So everything from how much energy is being used, what that energy costs, and also the cost of service of providing spare tires and oil changes, etc. And then finally, we have a loan management platform. So being able to track, for example, our billed amounts to bus operators, what's been billed, what's been received. We are using bus telematics, charging info, service ERP, and that's all being kind of consolidated with our in-house platform called SmartBus, which is helping us to kind of really understand the economics around our business. So that's one way which we're kind of using tech to improve our operations. The other one is kind of, I think, removing some of this opaqueness or the potential to remove some opaqueness around the way that PSVs work here in Kenya, to improve not just kind of the bus operator owning experience, but also passenger experience as well. So one consequence of there being little to no regulation here in Kenya on the way that buses are assigned to routes is that there can actually be a huge undersupply, or more likely a large oversupply of buses on particular routes of comparable, you want to go from the east side of town to the west side of town, there are probably 10 different ways you can do that. And in rush hour, there's often not enough buses. In low times, there's probably too many buses. And as a result, the buses experience kind of mixed utilization, and passengers also can end up, in the experience where they are being harassed to get onto buses, or they end up waiting for a bus and struggling to find a seat when it's pouring in rain. And one thing that we are doing is kind of actually developing a booking app. And so bus owners who own a Busigo bus, potentially even bus owners who own a diesel bus, maybe they pay a higher revenue share, can actually book a seat on a Busigo bus. And we hope that that can increase utilization for our bus operators, remove some of the kind of headaches of getting on a bus with bus passengers, and start to make kind of not just the cost side become more transparent to everyone, but also the income side as well. So that's one way we're using tech. I think Emil and Eric are back now, so perhaps I can, I'll wait for my next question.
Sure.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you, Emil. And we can see your screen, but not the presentation.
Yes. Do you see the presentation now?
Correct. I can see the presentation.
Okay. Yeah, sorry for the interruption. I lost the sound for a moment. So hello everyone, my name is Emil Fuchiri. I am the CTO and co-founder of Stima Boda. We are a startup based in Nairobi, Kenya. So our goal at Stima Boda is to build the technology that will enable mototaxi riders to switch to electric motorbikes through the system of battery swapping. So you already heard from the other speakers that there is a huge opportunity for intensive usage, intensive riders to switch to electric. The reason is that riders can save a lot on the energy and maintenance relative to fuel motorbikes, especially with the current price of fuel that is just going up every month. But there are some barriers in the case of electric motorbikes that explain why we don't have so many electric motorbikes yet on African roads for the usage of mototaxi. And the three barriers that we identified at Stima Boda, the first one is the high cost upfront of batteries. If you want a robust, high-quality electric motorbike, including the battery, the cost will be necessarily higher than for fuel motorbikes. And the other barriers is the problem of the charging time. Riders, Boda riders in Kenya, they don't have the time to wait 2 or 3 hours to charge their batteries because they would lose customers and they will lose the benefit of switching to electric. And then there is a problem of range anxiety. Riders sometimes they want to do more than 100, more than 150, or even sometimes more than 200 kilometers a day. So they don't want to be limited in terms of range. And the solution we are building, it combines 3 components. The first one is that our battery swapping solution is compatible with robust, high performance and high quality electric motorbikes. So we are partnering with an OEM in India that has been designing a bike that is made for Africa, for the difficult terrain, to be able to last for 5, 6, 7 years, even under the very intensive usage of mototaxi riders. And then part of the solution is battery as a service. The idea is that we don't sell the battery upfront to the customer. Instead, we enable him to access the motorbike at a similar price of the fuel motorbike, and he will pay for the battery when he pays for the energy. When, in our case, when he comes to swap at the battery swapping stations. And so the third brick of our solution is the concept of battery swapping, which means that instead of plugging your vehicle and waiting several hours to charge, the rider will go to one of our stations and exchange his empty battery for a full battery in 1 minute. And the price of this battery swapping service, in our case, is about 35% cheaper than fuel, which is, in the end, very significant for riders to make savings and increase their daily profits. So with electric mobility and electric motorbikes, we are addressing the main problems of mototaxi riders, which this problem is their expenses in terms of fuel, in terms of maintenance, and in terms of the cost of their motorbike. Many of them take their motorbike on loan, so they have to pay a daily payment for their motorbikes. And so here I take an example of Joseph Kama, who is a rider in Kenya. He's driving about 100 kilometers a day. He makes $15.4 a day for revenue from selling his mototaxi service, but he takes home only $6 a day because every day he has to pay for the fuel, for the maintenance, and for the loan of the bike. And so the huge opportunity of electric motorbikes with battery swapping services is that we enable riders to save a lot on the fuel and the maintenance. So the order of magnitude is that he can save between $2 and $3 a day. In the end, it is very significant for them because they can increase their daily net profit by 40 to 50%. So the value proposition that we bring to this market is we say the riders can increase their profit, their net profit by 50%. So the value proposition is definitely here. And that's why we have seen so many startups in the recent years trying to address this market of electric motorbikes in Africa. So on the left of this slide, I have listed about 15 companies that are active in the field trying to deploy electric motorbikes for African mototaxi riders. And probably there are even more than the one I listed here. But the thing is still, even if a lot of capital has been invested, we still see companies struggling to deploy battery swapping systems in Africa. And there are two main reasons why is it challenging to bring electric motorbikes with battery swapping for this market. The first reason is that if companies just try to take off-the-shelf solutions that have been deployed in Asia, it doesn't really work. It doesn't really work because the constraints of this market, the mototaxi usage in Africa, are very specific. The first aspect is that they need a motorbike that is really robust and made for very difficult terrain, for intensive usage. And most of the electric motorbikes that you can find in China, for example, they are not made for this kind of intensive usage on difficult roads. They are made for people commuting to work, for example, on nice roads that you have in China. So you cannot just plug and play the existing solution that you have in China. And also it's a very intensive usage because it's a commercial usage. Riders are using their motorbikes for their daily job, so they spend 8 or more hours on the road every day. And it's also a very cost-sensitive market. If you are just a bit more expensive than fuel motorbikes or fuel, you will not be able to address this market because it is very cost-sensitive. And what riders are expecting is a solution that will make them safe relative to their current solution of fuel. And the second big barrier is that battery swapping system is not viable if you don't have the right technology. If you implement a battery swapping system that is not smart, that is very straightforward, you will have a system that will be very difficult to finance. You will have, for example, too many batteries to serve your riders on the network, or some of your batteries will be underutilized, so it will be very difficult to amortize them, to finance them. Or you may have batteries that have too low lifetime. If you need to replace your batteries every 1 year or 2 years, the business model of battery swapping system doesn't work. You need batteries that can last 5, 6, 7 years or more to be able to implement this business model of battery swapping combined with battery as a service. And so our focus at Stimaboda, our solution that we bring to the market, is a technology suite that is designed to make battery swapping for African mototaxi riders effective, but also scalable and financeable. Because what we want is to be able to attract investors that have been investing in, for example, in the energy sectors. We want to attract the capital available to finance the transition to electric mobility in Africa. And so the main answer to the barriers, according to our positioning, is actually technology. So the technology that we are deploying is based on data. So we have IoT systems that are embedded in the batteries we are deploying. And the IoT systems are collecting all the data from the batteries that are circulating on our network. And then it enables us to track and monitor all the batteries on the network, to do some prediction on battery degradation, to monitor the revenue generated by each battery individually and all the stations on our network, to implement some strategies of optimizing the charging in the batteries and other types of optimization. And also on our technology suite, we also have our rider app, which is the interface between our company and the riders, where riders are able to see the map of the stations, the availability of batteries in our stations, and they can see also their daily statistics to enable them to estimate very accurately how much they spend every day on energy, on maintenance, and how much they save compared with fuel. And we also have an operator app for operators in our battery swapping stations to manage the battery swapping systems. So we strongly believe at Steama Boda that the main answer to enable a massive switch to electric motorbikes is definitely to develop and deploy the right technology, because the economic and the value proposition to switch to electric motorbikes is already there. So then, of course, we need also to lobby for more favorable policy schemes. We need to convince investors, as Jonathan mentioned, to invest in early stage companies, de-risking mechanisms, for example, to attract more debt in the sector. But we believe the main opportunity to make this system work and to deploy massively electric motorbikes in Africa is to develop the right technology. So thank you. I am done with my presentation and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Eric. And I'm sorry, Emil, apologies for that. I'm going to take some questions from the public chat now. Please, the panel here, if you could go ahead and maybe raise your hand or unmute to respond to a question from the public chat, that will be great. Okay. So Henning is asking a question with regard to carving out effect between old and new. Could you explain the role of governance? So, any of you, it's an open question to the panel. If you could unmute or just start speaking. And also, in the meantime, I have left some information on the public chat. To all, would you like to receive the recording to the webinar? Please, will you register on the given platform? And then for also, I promised earlier, the Africa Alliance position papers on 10 key recommendations to achieve business success in Africa. Please consider the link left in the public chat. So Michael is also saying he would like to reach out to the panel. And for this, let me invite to the next networking meeting on the 24th of August. That will be next week, same time. And to meet the panel as well as to match with the audience here today. I'm leaving the link in the public chat. Okay, so does anyone want to answer the question, or can we take another question from John? How do you see the positioning of the oil major vis-a-vis your business model?
Yeah, well, I guess that's me, so I can't dodge that question. Yeah, hi, John. It's really interesting. I think my thoughts here is that we've already seen the energy companies, or I guess the oil companies, like Total, for example, rebrand themselves. And in our conversations with them, they are, very, very keen to kind of transition from being, fuel companies to energy companies. And I probably imagine, actually, especially here in the continent, where here in Kenya, actually the fuel price is actually regulated by EPRA, and so as a result, there's actually very, very slim margins to be made on fuel, and you see a lot of these kind of non-fuel-based revenues being actually a very, very key part to the value proposition of Vivo Energy and Total. So anything from renting out real estate to Java Cafe, pharmacies, KFC, for example, that you see all over the forecourts here, actually utilizing their space to charge EVs is something that they are actively interested in. And so we actually see them as partners versus competitors here. So we're actually actively engaged in conversations with the likes of Total and Shell to explore how we can utilize their unused forecourt space. And you can imagine at nighttime when the buses are charging, there's a lot of space. to charge electric buses. I think similarly, a lot of these kind of fuel stations now have a lot of C&I solar on their rooftops, meaning that daytime charging, so any kind of electric vehicle need a quick top up in the day, that actually can be more affordable than charging on the grid. So yeah, we're hoping to have some very kind of positive partnerships, like the likes of Ampersand, for example, have had already with the oil companies.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Please, Eric first, and then Emil. Eric had, right. Sure, Eric.
Yeah, thank you very much. I will answer the first question, which was the role of government in supporting electric vehicle ecosystem in Tanzania. So let me first of all be specific for Tanzania, because other countries like in Kenya, Uganda, I'm not so much sure about what they are doing, especially the government on that countries. But in Tanzania, we see, since we started our pilot project, we see that the government is supporting us, especially when you need the certificates, when you need some permissions, when you need there's some regulation which we see that we need them in order to succeed our pilot project, and the government was there and still is there. But what I think that it should be done more. For instance, this is a new innovation. When you talk electric vehicle in Africa, it's not like in Europe, what we see in Germany. The technology now is normal. But in Africa, it's something new which is coming, especially in Tanzania. So I think what we can do, our government, to increase more time and more support on those, especially maybe in technological ways, and on how to support with small startups, so as we can come one day with our own African product and something like that.
Thank you so much, Eric. And Emil, your hand was raised.
Yes, thank you, Svetlana. I wanted to answer to a question raised by Gaetan on the chat. So the question was, do you believe that ultimately batteries will need to be adaptable to any bike, generic batteries, just like gas? It sounds like today manufacturers, distributors of bikes are all looking at batteries in silos. So this was the question. And I think it's possible that we will indeed transition in the medium term to kind of standards of batteries, but definitely it will take time. And batteries, it's not like gas or fuel. It's not a commodity, something that you can just like easily change from one bike to another. The battery is actually the core of the motorbike. It is directly related to the power that the motorbike will have. It will define also the range of the motorbike, but it's kind of a critical component and a critical differentiating aspect between different companies. So it's not a commodity, which means that today companies are just like developing and deploying the batteries that are the best suited for their bikes and also the best suited for their business models. Because depending on the business models that you develop, you may not need the same kind of batteries. So some companies may want to go to, for example, heavy lithium iron phosphate batteries because what they want is long life cycle. And you may have other companies which prefer to deploy batteries that are more dense, maybe more cost effective, but that will last less in time. So depending on if you sell the battery up front or if you want to implement battery swapping with battery as a service, you may not have the same incentive to invest in long life cycle batteries. So for example, what we believe at Stimaboda is at some point, there will be probably some bilateral discussions between a few companies, but to kind of try and have interoperable batteries between different motorbikes and different types of battery swapping stations. But today, the market is still too early. We need companies to test their business model, to test their technology, and then once we see the technologies that emerge, then we can go towards some collaboration to go towards standards of batteries.
Thank you so much for your question. I was just responding to a question on the public chat. Okay, and the public chat is lively. Thank you, Svetlana, for a great session. Okay, people leaving their LinkedIn connection on the chat. So someone is also asking, such an amazing session, which routes are the bicycle companies operating currently? A lot of questions, so I don't know whether we can, maybe if the panel has 1 or 2 more minutes, because I said the webinar runs until 10 a.m. Central European time. So maybe we could do some breakout rooms with the panel if they have 15 minutes. I do not know. It will be up to them because our time has run out here for the Africa Alliance, but I have left the link to the networking meeting next week on Wednesday. Please come in. We'll be more than happy to answer your questions. So we have some 3 certificates here in appreciation for being panel here with us. It has been a very intensive discussion. Maybe let me take back the presentation rights and share my screen. So here we have a tree certificate for Emil, has been planted in Africa by the EUTEC Climate Action Partnership. We have one for Jonathan as well, and finally one for Eric. These 3 certificates will be sent to you shortly after the webinar. Also do look out for the after event post, which will be made available via LinkedIn and Facebook. From my side, I think I have no more additions, and I'll be happy to close. If you have any last parting shots, but we are 2 minutes over the time now. Thank you so much to our audience here for making this webinar such a success, and especially our panel for the preparation and the presentation today. Let's continue the conversation via LinkedIn. It's a bye from me for now. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Great conversation, and yeah, happy to connect on further questions.
Thank you very much.
Yes, hello.
Hello, Eric.
Yeah, hello. Thank you very much also for giving this chance today to present Emo Boda Boda. What I could say is the future is in our hand, especially for us East African countries. And we are there to change the world to electric. So this is a chance to work together wherever you are from Uganda, from Kenya, Tanzania. So we live together in order to create a good ecosystem in East Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. To invite you to the networking meeting next week to continue the conversation, okay?
Thank you very much. I'll be there.